Hello ladies, happy Monday. Whew, I just finished the workout for today. The one with the side lunges and the reach across and the high knees, and got me breathless. Definitely got me breathless. And actually it's really good. I would have kept going, but I knew I had to start the live I wanted to start it on time, so I didn't keep going, but I think I might go back to it after the live and maybe do a couple more rounds of it. So I got my post-workout shake here, same as I had the other day actually. So, excuse me, get a little bit of that in because I haven't really eaten anything yet today. The lighting feels weird here. Let me see if I can switch around a little bit. All right, so how was everyone's weekend? I would love to hear how it's going, and I know that Mondays can kind of be interesting. Sometimes people really use that as their like, get back on track. Oh gosh, like I fell off over the weekend and I need to get back on track and get back into the habits. Maybe you feel really guilty, maybe you feel kind of ashamed that you're a failure, that you weren't able to keep doing it like you had been maybe the week before. And we can be really awesome Monday through Friday, and then have the weekend come along and be just really hard to keep that momentum going and feel bad about it. So first of all, hopefully by now you know that I really stand by every little bit counts. So there's a couple things. One is that we can just do a little bit on the weekends. We can just sneak in 5 minutes. We can go for that longer walk maybe if we're not feeling up to working out. We can sneak things in, right? Every little bit counts, and that helps us just, some people really do better with that. And then there's also the mindset part of it, is that we can really start telling ourselves stories around what happened that weekend. Like when it changes, that we think it's bad, or that we tell ourselves the story of, I'm a failure, and you feel shame. I feel ashamed of what happened, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy. All these kind of stories. We might not even realize that we are saying these stories to ourselves, but they can be there, especially if you get to Monday and maybe the weekend didn't go as planned and you're having that feeling of major guilt and like you just need to like make up for it, right? That you need to overcompensate for what you feel was bad over the weekend because you don't feel worthy, you don't feel like you're good enough, that you need to make up for it. And so I kind of want to address that second one and give you some practical tools to really shift out of that. So again, some mindset work, because that's really at the foundation of healthy lifestyle change with exercise and nutrition, because it gets to the root issues. Instead of trying to put a band-aid on a problem, I really stand by getting to the root of the problem, figuring out what wasn't working, and doing some really very practical things, trying a lot of different things, honestly, to figure out what works for you. And get to the root of the problem, though, is key. So we're gonna go through 3 things, and of course, if you have questions, even if you're watching later, I just wanna remind you, put those questions in the bottom, and I'm gonna share some exciting news with you at the end, so please stick around to the end. I wanna kind of go over some things I'm gonna be sharing with you later today, and the day 9 email, it's gonna go out a little earlier than usual, so that you have access to that workout, and also the special offer that I'm excited to share with you guys. All right, I'm so breathless from the workout, so let me grab another sip of my shake and jump into it. Okay, so what happens when, or if, I like to say if, but usually it's a when, because most likely at some point we're gonna fall off track. If it hasn't happened already for you in this challenge, it could happen maybe when we stop. Maybe there's this like big letdown period after we finish. You feel like, oh my gosh, I did it, awesome, like this huge feeling of like accomplishment, but then the group's gone. You don't have the group there for support if that's something that really is important to you and helps you stay motivated, if you're an obliger especially, or if you're up older and I'm referring to the personality tendencies, and if you don't have that kind of structure in place, that someone's waiting for you, expecting you to show up or to check in, that can be a time where a lot of people unfortunately fall off track after the challenge. They're like, I did it, or maybe you feel like I did that, that's good enough, like now I don't have to work out for a little bit. And then before you know it, time goes by and you feel like maybe it just is so hard to get back going again. So read the email if you didn't already that I sent out last night, just about how creating this healthy habit change is a lot like riding a bike. It's really hard to get going. Like when I'm riding my son to school, especially with him on there, and it's a heavy bike and he's heavy, and usually we have a heavy backpack on it. trying to get going from a dead stop is really hard. It's like the most challenging part, unless I'm going up a really steep incline. And so what I always try to do is coast a little bit so I don't have to completely stop. So, right, it's kind of like going to a stop sign safely. You know, I always will completely stop if there's other cars or bikes present. But if there's not anyone else around, I will definitely coast, check, make sure it's safe, and then keep going. If I don't have to stop, I don't. Because I know that if I can stop completely, it's like a lot of, to get it going again. And a lot of the same is true for healthy habit. Trying to get that momentum going is the hardest part. The beginning is the hardest part. And then you get those wheels going, you get your legs going, and then it's like, ooh, you got it. It's just like, you gotta keep working to keep it going, but it's not as hard as it was at the beginning. And so I just wanna remind you, like at the end of this, it might be tempting, or you might catch yourself starting to slip off. And so these are tools that you can do if you feel that happening. So if it happens that you fall off track and you kind of have to start over again from that dead stop, these are some tools. And Megan, I see you just jumped on. If everyone hasn't read Megan's check-in for today, please go read it, because I think, Megan, what you did today when you post, like your reflection, was so important, and I'm so glad you shared it. And it's actually, I'd already planned out what I was gonna talk about, but it's exactly that, like really thinking through your language and figuring out your mindset around it. So let's jump into it. I'm gonna go over the 3 things I wanted to cover today. So if it happens that you fall off track, but more likely when it happens, because it usually happens to all of us at one point or another, there's 3 things. The first is to stop and shift your story. So exactly what you're saying, Megan, like what's the language you're saying? Like, I don't have time, I'm too busy. And instead of saying, I'm making the choice to do something else, or I'm prioritizing something else over this, and shifting your kind of perception of it, and your story around it. So, right, like when we fall off track, a lot of times the story can be, I'm a failure, and you feel the shame, I'm not worthy, I'm, like trying to compensate on Monday for maybe not being as on track over the weekend. So changing that story, so immediately stopping when you start to have that that feeling of like falling off track and that you're not good enough, just stop in your tracks and shift, pivot. So shift your story from maybe that phrase. You have to even like really check in what you're saying to yourself, because sometimes we don't even catch the negative talk that we're giving ourselves. And like but when you really peel it underneath it, it's like, I'm a failure. You're like, ugh, like that feeling of like, ugh, like shame, like, geez, I did it again. That could be what you say, I did it again. And so in shifting that and creating an affirmation, creating words, right? Like really be intentional with the words that we're using. So stop and shift your story, and to shift and have one ready. I'll share one with you. You can use that, or take it and make it feel authentic for you. Because the worst is trying to use an affirmation that somebody came up with and it feels like completely false and fake to you. So just to remember that, I love this quote from Abraham Hicks, and I have to look at it to just make sure I get it right. A belief is just a thought that you keep thinking. So a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking. So, right, if that underlying story, that thought is that I'm a failure, that you're shamed, and that you can't do it, or that you're too busy, if that's your story, that's your thought, that's your belief. Like that's the way you're shifting your life. So what's the thought you can intentionally like stop and shift in your story? What is the positive thought that you can put in place? So choose your thoughts well, because that's where you get. Do you want to get shame and fear, or do you want to get like feel empowered and that you're having a choice? Just like Megan shared, like you have a choice. So one phrase or affirmation you might want to use is, I am resourceful, right? So that you can get creative and figure out how to make things happen. I am resourceful, finding those yes moments, and a beautiful, strong work in progress. So acknowledging that there's times that you're gonna slip up. So I am resourceful and a beautiful, strong work in progress. And like there's those mantras that I've been sharing during the workouts, so you can use those if any of those resonate with you. But if this one, I am resourceful and a strong, beautiful work in progress, then go for it. Or take it and create one that feels good for you. I'm gonna wipe the sweat off from my workout. Okay, so that's number 1, stop and shift your story. Number 2 is 5, 2, 3, 4, 1, action. So this is from Mel Robbins. Have you ever heard of her? She's got the 5-second rule, and it's brilliant, you guys. It's so simple, but it's brilliant. So basically it's when you get your, I'll read exactly what she says. If you have an instinct to act on a goal, you must physically move it within 5 seconds or your brain will kill it. You'll just kill that instinct to do something. You're gonna overthink it. And I'll share a resource with you guys, an excellent talk she gave, as well as an article that's amazing. And she really gives a lot of examples with exercise and activity, so which is perfect, kind of what we're focusing on right now in the challenge. But so say you're on the couch and you're watching Netflix and you get like this like little voice is like, oh, I should really do that workout before I go to bed, or I should really get up and do something. And instead of like talking yourself out of it, which is what we do a lot of the time, it's like what she did to really change her life. And she was completely down after the financial crisis. They lost everything, and she was just, their family was devastated. She would like had a really hard time getting up in the morning, kept hitting snooze. And she finally just like, she's not sure where she came up with it, but she just was like, all right, I'm just gonna count like a rocket ship, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And she'd get up out of bed, and she kept doing that. She's like, oh, that really worked. And she would just do it anytime she felt like the instinct to take action. And like on a goal that she really had, she would just like count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and move, like just shuffle those tootsies, you guys, move those feet, taking action. So that example, you're on the couch, maybe watching your favorite Netflix, and you're like, ooh, I should really maybe make sure I get that workout in before I make dinner or something like that. And you just like immediately get up and put on your shoes rather than like thinking it through, rationalizing it, all that kind of stuff. You just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, action, some kind of action. So I'll share that article with you in her talk, because I really think she goes through lots of examples and really helps you understand how it works and how to make it work in your life. So that's the second one, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, action. Just like a movie, right? We're like stars in our own movies of our lives. And then the third one is similar to our commit to fit for this challenge, right? Like we're all into the commit to fit. The third one is commit to 5. So 5 minutes. So committing to 5 minutes of movement. So this is specifically like 3 simple things to do if you fall off track from exercise. So the third one, just committing to 5. It's my 5-minute rule, I call it. And that is where if I'm just like low energy, today was kind of another one because I didn't get much sleep last night and didn't get much sleep over the weekend. And I was like, do I really want to do this workout? And so I was just like, no, at least do 5 minutes. And that's my commitment. I'm going to commit to at least 5 minutes, because who doesn't have 5 minutes? You can even set it to 1 minute, just like to get started. And so I just like, okay, I'm going to just do 5 minutes. I didn't have much time before starting this live. I dropped Oli off at school, walked back, and also did the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 action instead of cleaning up all the toys in the living room because there was a mess and not much room for me to work out. I was like, I'm not going to postpone it. I'm going to take action right away before I start getting distracted, cleaning up, and then run out of time. So I did that second one right when I got home and just got into it and said, okay, I'm not really high energy. I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to commit to 5, and did my 5 minutes, and then I check in. So then I check in. I'm like, okay, 5 minutes up. I could let myself off the hook if I'm feeling really tired or not feeling, if I'm not like well, if I'm not feeling good, if I'm sick or my back hurts or something's truly not feeling good in my body, then I will stop. I will maybe just go for a walk, or I'll take a bath, like an Epsom salt bath, or do something really loving for myself if the more intense movement really isn't feeling good. But more often than not, that 5 minutes is like a buy-in, and I'm like, ooh, I actually feel really good. Okay, I'm into it. It's kind of like a warm-up. You got it done. I want to do more. And I even said, a little earlier in the live that I actually cut it off because I had to start this live, but I would have kept going. I would easily have gone to 15, maybe 20 minutes, and I'm probably going to try and get some more in after the live. So, that also, right? Like that balance of truly listening, tuning in. This is an excellent practice of learning to listen to your body and what you need. And so, sometimes it's self-love to stop and do something else. That's intentional action, but maybe not intense movement. So that's one part of the spectrum. And then the other side of it, when you check in to really see, am I selling myself short, or can I maybe push a little bit longer, maybe push a little bit more intensely? And if that's true, then do it. Go for it. Don't sell yourself short. Get a little grit and dig in there, because that gives you the opportunity to see progress, that you're going to see continued results and just feel that increased stamina. You're gonna feel stronger and healthier in your life. So when you feel that burst of energy, take it, go for it. It's a yes moment. So, you know, stay open, pay attention. So this is an excellent tool to really check in and to see if you need to dial it back or to maybe ramp it up a little bit. I always, you know, when I teach yoga, I haven't taught in-person classes for a long time, but just always that gift we're giving ourselves of practicing on the mat. So doing a yoga practice and tuning into our body and our breath is a really just practice for life. So my goal with my yoga practice is, of course, it's beautiful and wonderful. It feels good in my body in the moment, but it's intentional. Like I do that practice because I take it from the mat, off the mat into my life. And the same happens, I feel the same way about our workouts. It's like a practice for life. Like we're learning skills, we're doing things that really are gonna help us in our life to really have those moments when you're feeling like everything's coming at you at once and you can't really like tune in here. Having that 5 minute, like that commit to 5, and where you're practicing checking in, it really like develops that skill when you have maybe some bigger things that come up and you really need to know what your soul, what your heart is really trying to tell you, and it helps you really like get to your center and know what the decision is that's maybe the best for you. So that's a really good skill. And while you're doing that commit to 5 and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna give myself 5 minutes, I'm gonna see if it's time to cool it off and just do something else loving for myself or to ramp it up. During that 5 minutes, I really encourage you to do that, that first thing we talked about where you change your story and have an affirmation. Use your affirmation during that 5 minutes, and that can really help shift, right? Like help you practice. If you're having a hard time practicing using your affirmations throughout the rest of your life, use that 5 minutes, right? It's kind of a nice way to be like, oh yeah, I remember now. It's like a trigger. Like, okay, yeah, this is the time for me to practice using the affirmation to stop and shift my story. All right, so it all kind of ties together. That's the beauty of it. How is this resonating with you guys? How are you feeling like with this information? Does it make sense? Do you have questions? If you have questions, please put them in the comments, of course, about this or about anything else. But look, I sent the email out last night, so if you didn't get a chance, I encourage you to read it, because it really talks about that example of how it's like riding the bike, and that helps you from falling off track. So then, you don't have to maybe use these simple tools as often. But if you are feeling in a rut, or if you're feeling like you've fallen off track and you're starting to tell yourself that I'm a failure, I just can't do it, like, I did it again, I didn't stick with my plan, come back to these 3 simple tools, and hopefully they'll be really easy for you to put into practice and to just feel some relief too, right? Every time we fall off track, it's not so much about what happens to our waistline or to the scale. I mean, that can have an impact for sure. It's what happens here or here, right? It's really what happens to our morale, our mental mindset, all of that kind of stuff. It can have much more of a big hit on our resolve. And so I really want you to just have that recovery time be shorter and shorter every time, so that you just jump back on right away, that you don't have that lag time be as long. So each time, it's gonna happen probably sooner than we want, that we fall off track or we plateau or whatever you wanna call it. And just the intention is that it's not saying that they're not gonna happen. I don't want you, it's never gonna probably the reality, but the intention is that the lag time, the downtime in between, you feeling really good and on track and consistent, is shorter and shorter, so that you feel that you can just have tools like these to just jump back in. Okay, awesome. Yeah, thanks for the love. So thanks for listening in, you guys. And I really appreciate, I posted yesterday a question and some folks have answered it, and I really value that feedback. So if you haven't already, go back to the announcements, and it was just what are your questions? What are your burning questions about health, nutrition, exercise, or mindset stuff? And what would you Google? What would you put into a search box, on Google or Pinterest? What are the questions you're having about those things? And if you could pose those for me, I would love it. I'm trying to put together a webinar very soon, and would love to just answer a really common question that you guys are having, and to be able to provide some more tools for that are just, again, implementable. Is that a word? Really easy to implement. And lastly, I want to just go over, I'm going to be sending an email later last night it was too much was happening. I stayed up too late and my brain was fried, so I couldn't send out the email early this morning, but I'm gonna get on it now and send you the early and discounted access to the Magic Makers movement, which is my monthly consistency club for women that focuses on exercise, nutrition, and mindset. We really go into all of those. And you have access to a portal with all of the workouts and recordings of live trainings. I have guest experts in there every month. We have healthy recipes and just amazing support in a private Facebook group just like this, but much more intimate. It's just about 25 ladies in there right now. We're hoping to grow it though. We want to add more ladies in, but it's just like an amazing, warm, loving space. And the ladies most of them have been in there for a really long time because they come back for the support. They've had success. They've lost weight if that's the goal for them. They've gotten consistent with their eating, healthy eating or exercise, but they stay in it because of the support or because they want to keep honing skills and just keep finding right? Once you feel good, you're like, ooh, how can I feel better? It's kind of like, not, like an addiction, but it's kind of like, oh yeah, this is awesome. I can do this. And you feel empowered. So you want to stick with that. So a lot of them have been in it for a long time and it's been amazing. And it's grown like since last year. Like when I first started it, the poor ladies that were like my guinea pigs. And I was just, like getting started. And now there's over 100 workouts in there. There's tons of live trainings that I've done in there that have like really like 10 to 15 minute training. So they really try and get concise to the point on a specific topic. And so I'm really proud of where it's built up to now. It's much more, I feel like, like I look back at some of the old videos and things like, oh, that was a little bit rough. But now it's just been really cool to grow it and to kind of hone my skills around it and give you much higher quality, I believe, tools and resources. So I'm going to send out early and discounted access to the Magic Makers movement. That will be available to you until Friday or Thursday. What's 4 days? For 4 days. And would love to have you guys jump in on that. So all the details will be in the email along with the day 9 workout going out a little bit earlier. So I'm going to send that out as soon as I can get myself together and get the information all updated in the emails for you. All right. So keep an eye out for that. And of course, shoot me any questions. And if any of you ladies that are in the Magic Makers want to jump in and share your thoughts, I would love for you to share that with the other ladies and just give your perspective on the Magic Makers group. All right, that's it from me for now, and I will see you later. Bye. See you tomorrow at 9:30. I will need to switch for Wednesday because Oli has a dentist appointment, but tomorrow I will be on at 9:30 Central. Okay, bye.